Hey folks, this is Brother Mike, and I'm glad to be with you today. I think it's the second day of spring, boy, and we got crocuses coming up outside and a little bit of snow on the ground here in Worcester, Massachusetts today. But hey, springtime's right around the corner, and boy, I'm glad that winter's over. And I'm glad to be with you. And I want to welcome my new subscribers. I've got a couple of new subscribers. I want to thank you folks very much for tuning in and having confidence in me and being interested in what I say. And, I seem to be like stuck on the city of Worcester, you know. I live in Worcester, Massachusetts. And, I like to talk about other things too, you know what I mean? But it seems like the city of Worcester is always giving me something to talk about. And even though it's just in my town, who knows, man? There can be towns all over America, that are experiencing the same thing, and it's not just relevant to the people here in Worcester, but it may be relevant to you too. So I hope you will bear with me as I kind of ramble on here. I don't have a real prepared thing, to guide me along, but I just want to bring a couple of things to your attention, about our local government, and of course I have not a vendetta, but, this police department here in Worcester, I don't know how to describe it, it's just like, we live in a society of rights and duties, everybody has rights and duties. We have the duty as citizens to be good citizens, you know what I mean? And obey the law, but we also have rights, and vice versa. The government, they has rights, a lot of rights, but they have duties too, and we have to keep these things in balance in order to maintain a civil society, where people can feel good about, where they live and how they live. And gee whiz, each one of us, we have our own individual problems that we have to cope with on a daily basis, and that's just something that is part of life, but, when the government kind of falls off balance and starts to intrude into your personal space and do things that cause you to become a little bit anxious about, what their ultimate motive is and, how they go about performing their tasks. It just makes life a lot more complicated, And we have no shortage of that here in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you a couple examples. I've talked to you about some things that have been going on here, but we had a recent court problem, regarding the Worcester Police. This gentleman, his name is Donovan Smith. In the year 2012, this guy was sentenced to life imprisonment, He killed a 21-year-old college student, and her name was Michelle Diaz. She went to Worcester State University here in Worcester, and she was shot in the neck by this guy and subsequently died during the course of a robbery. Now, unfortunately, Michelle, God bless her soul, was selling marijuana. It was a marijuana deal gone bad, They were all in the car. I guess they were making their transaction. Something went wrong, and this guy, Donovan Smith, discharged his weapon, striking her in the neck. She bled out and died, Now, there's a whole other part of this story that we won't get into, but it's a shame when a college student, some young person, 21 years old, trying to advance himself in life, has to supplement their income by selling drugs, but that's a whole nother story, in terms of, with the student, the cost of going to school and these corrupt student loans, but we won't talk about that. Well, anyway, the guy had three accomplices, and they all flipped on him. The police, in their wisdom, um, gave these guys reduced sentences to testify against this Donovan Smith, okay? And, they did so. And recently, the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, who have been reviewing this conviction of Donovan Smith, they reversed his conviction. All right? Why? The police here in Worcester, during the course of questioning this individual, blatantly, this is the words of the Supreme Judicial Court. It wasn't a little thing, it was a blatant thing. They blatantly violated his constitutional rights by creating a substantial likelihood of a miscarriage of justice by continuing to question Mr. Smith after he lawyered up, after he invoked his right to cease the interrogation and have a lawyer present. They continued with the questioning, ignoring his constitutional rights. All right? So now he gets a new trial. The family of Michelle Diaz has to relive this whole tragedy. I have never in my life had any of my loved ones murdered. I've lost my loved ones. I know what it means and how it feels to lose a loved one. But, the fact that these people are going to have to relive this whole mess, it's a tragedy and a separate tragedy in itself. And it's all because of the overzealousness of the interrogators. When you depart from the rules and ignore the rights of the people that have been accused of crimes, it's more like an inquisition. It's like, the heck with the Constitution. We're going to do what we want to get this guy because, we think we can get away with it. And this is a big ethos in the Worcester Police Department. They think they can get away with this stuff. Well, they didn't get away with this, because this guy's going to get a new trial. Now, the likelihood of them, reconvicting him is minimized because these three men, who were his accomplice in this crime, they got a reduced sentence. They're scheduled to be released. The likelihood of them testifying against him in his new trial, minute at best. They're also not going to be able to use some of the testimony that he gave them in this blatantly unconstitutional interrogation. That's not going to be admissible. They're not going to be able to use that. Now, our district attorney, his name is Mr. Early, he says he is going to attempt to reconvict this guy, but the likelihood of him succeeding without the cooperation of these accomplices and without this testimony that has been thrown out by the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court is slim to none. So what do we have? We've got a convicted murderer walking the streets of Worcester because the police decided they didn't want to recognize and honor the constitutional rights of a criminal defendant who has the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. They're going to grease the skids on this guy. Well, buzzards have come home to roost, And This comes 4 years. You think that this ain't the first time that this has happened. 4 years ago, they framed a 16-year-old Vietnamese girl for the murder of her infant son. The girl's name was Na Trong. And I'm telling you, folks, if they have videos of her interrogation on the internet. Ngatruong. If you want to see some sloppy police work and some diabolical questioning of a child by grown men who are talented at eliciting information, you know, and just be upset and fearful, of their techniques and what they did to this child. You look at these videos and it'll just rock you to your core. The poor girl. She came from a dysfunctional family. Unfortunately, her mother had an alcohol problem. She had brothers and sisters, and you know, at 16 years old, she had a little child. And her younger brother had died previously. And so here now, what the police did is they when they were interrogating her at 16 years of age, without an attorney present, they made promises to her that they couldn't keep, and they knew they couldn't keep. They promised her that if she confessed to killing her son, that they would get help for the family and for her brothers and sisters who she loved dearly. And she was a surrogate mother to these children, at 16 years of age. She took on the responsibility of being the mother to her brothers and sisters, and these police promised her, they said, there are social workers waiting outside the door right now to help your brothers and sisters get into foster care and have a new life, and we can get you a new life too, so that you can be a child at 16 years old and don't have to have the responsibilities of an adult. It was a big lie. And by coercing her in this manner, this child, this 16-year-old girl, who thought that if she admitted to killing her own child, that she was going to be released and be able to go home that day. This is how naive she was about the process. She confessed to killing her own child. Okay? I mean, how rotten is that? How terrible of a thing to do to a child. That's child abuse. They want to get this case closed. Hey, for all we know, they says, these Vietnamese people, they could have been prejudiced. They could have been racist about this thing. But definitely, we don't know that. But we know that they were very cavalier about respecting her rights. As a citizen. You know what I mean? And that telegraphs to everybody in the city of Worcester. And this is why everybody should be concerned about this, because this could be your child sitting there. This could be you sitting there, being lied to and coerced by the police into making a false confession. Well, she didn't go home after that. She went to jail, and she stayed in jail for 3 years. She even missed the funeral of her own child, because she was locked up. So you'd think that they would have learned a lesson. Her case was reversed. She got framed. The charges were ultimately dropped. Because she didn't do it. The confession was coerced. And this is the way they behave. And it really upsets Brother Mike to be living in a town where the police have propensities like this. We've had other cases. I'll just go through a couple of them. They had a sting operation. All right. This heroin dealer was having heroin mailed to him, through FedEx or something. You know what I mean? So, they set up this sting operation. Where, when he received the package, the FedEx guy was really a cop, right? Great, nice plan. Guy gets the package, and okay, now he's got it in his possession. You know, FedEx guy rips off his mask. Hey, I'm really a police officer here of the Worcester Police Department. You're under arrest. Guy opens up, the cop opens up the package. Yep, there's heroin in here. You know, case gets thrown out. Why? You know, like when you're in your car and, you know, you get pulled over by the police and the police say, oh, do you mind if I search your car? You know, you can say no. You know, then they got to go get a warrant, right? Well, same thing applied to this guy. You know, this was his personal property. He had property rights. You know, he had a Fourth Amendment right. You know, not to have his property intruded upon by the police. You know, even though they suspect they didn't have X-ray vision, they couldn't look through that box and see what was in there. They had to open that box. You know, and to open that box, they needed permission to open the box in order to be respectful of his civil rights. No, they just skipped that part. They opened the box. Yep, found the heroin. Had to throw the case out. Had the guy dead to rights, man. Spent all that money, you know, setting up this sting operation. Get this notorious criminal dealing heroin, and we got people dropping like flies all over Worcester. You know, our governor just passed this new law about opioid addiction. It's incredible, you know, how bad the situation is, not only here in Worcester, but in the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts and across the nation. You know, with this heroin and prescription medication, you know, that people abuse, you know, that's opioid based, you know. We're becoming a nation of addicts, you know, people just trying to find a way out. We can go off on this, you know, because there's a whole phenomenon happening in America, you know, where the middle class white people, you know, they don't exist anymore, really. You know, they're turning them into, you know, we won't say that word because I got little kids, you know, that watch my videos, you know, that I go to church with my little Nepali kids. Hi, kids, love you, you know, but, you know, this issue with the heroin is terrible here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you know, but now what was I talking about, you know? Well, I don't know, but, you know, this matter with the guy with the heroin, you know, it was totally avoidable. You know, they could have went and got themselves a warrant like they should have, and they would have got their conviction, you know, hands down. Instead, the guy walks. So now we got a murderer, you know, who's probably going to be walking the streets, and we got a heroin dealer who's going to be walking the streets, you know, because the police don't do their job properly. They're like cowboys here. You know, they make up the rules as they go along. I have a case in the United States District Court. If you've watched any of my videos, you should know about it. I called 911. I was living on a street here in Worcester that was not very well respected. You know, a lot of drugs, prostitution, bad neighborhood, you know. Only place I could afford at the time, you know. But I tried to do the best I could to enhance my neighborhood, you know, and get along with my neighbors, you know. But sometime when they messed up, you know, I have to do what a good citizen would do. I called 911 on these people, and previously, you know, I had published videos similar to this on YouTube, railing against the Worcester Police, you know. Well, here comes the police responding to this 911 call. To make a long story short, they end up arresting Brother Mike and putting some trumped up charges on me, disturbing the peace and being a disorderly person. These 3 cops showed up. 2 of them were blood brothers. I mean, you know, the Worcester Police, I don't know if they did it themselves or if the Worcester Police did it, but whatever. You do not send brother policemen who are brothers to the same crime scene because you create an automatic conflict of interest. Naturally, the one brother is going to back up the other brother no matter what he says. Well, the protagonist in this matter, a police officer named Matthew Tivnan, he concocted this big cock and bull story to justify his malicious arrest of me because he didn't like these videos that I published, and figured he's going to get away with it. He figured he was dealing with some kind of stupid Negro, you know, on a street in Worcester where everybody's a drunken drug addict, and he mischaracterized Brother Mike. He didn't know that he was biting off more than he could chew. Because we had the criminal charges reduced to civil violations. We prevailed on one. We didn't prevail on the other one. But I was able to move this thing to federal court, where I am prosecuting the Worcester Police for malicious prosecution and failure to intervene, because this guy was so rough with Brother Mike. When he decided he was going to rough me up and arrest me, he slammed my face 3 times into a chain link fence while he was handcuffing me, and in the process, he tore 2 tendons in my shoulder. And this is 2.5, 3 years ago. I'm getting physical therapy on my shoulder right now. My shoulder will never be the same again. And I'm handling the prosecution of this matter myself. At what they call pro se. And you know why I'm gonna win? I'm gonna win because these police in this particular matter thought that I was so stupid, that they took tremendous liberties in inventing, this cock and bull story, which was a total pack of lies that they are married to now. We have what we call tools of discovery in civil matters. One of the tools is called interrogatories. They're written questions that are answered under the pains and penalties of perjury. You get to propound 25 of them. We also have requests for production of documents, and we have these things called admissions, where you say, is it a true statement that? And they either answer yes or no, and you get 25 of those. Well, they give you a time limit to answer these interrogatories, 30 days. It's been pretty close to 60, maybe more. I don't have a calendar with me, and they still haven't answered these interrogatories. Why? They're afraid to. You know why they're afraid? Because all they have is this big lie that they created in the beginning that they thought they were going to get away with, and they have their little cronies in the Worcester District Court that they see every day. They're down there prosecuting, people every day, with these assistant district attorneys and clerks at the court, and the court personnel. They're very familiar with these people. They get away with murder down there, They can't get away with murder at the federal court because they're not all larded up with these people. They're afraid to answer these questions because the only alternative that they have, well, they have 2 alternatives actually. One is to answer these questions truthfully and admit that their case is based on a lie, or 2, continue on with that lie. Not very good choices for them, because if they screw up, there's 3, and guess what? You try to get 3 liars to tell the same lie over and over again, the same numerous lies over and over again. They're going to trip themselves up. Or Brother Mike is going to be clever enough to formulate questions that are going to that they have to answer, and they're going to have to continue lying. Well, if they get caught perjuring themselves in federal district court like they did in Worcester District Court, these cops are going to go to jail. And the worst thing that a police officer fears is being convicted of a crime and ended up in jail with the same people that they ended up putting in jail. You know what I mean? This is their worst nightmare. And this is what is developing for these people right now. So hopefully, we're going to get some justice out of this case, because we are in bad need of justice, and these people are in bad need of being taught a lesson about messing around with the citizens and violating people's rights, So anyway, you know, I just wanted to kind of get that stuff off my chest, about these local issues. There's a lot of other stuff to talk about, but we're just going to kind of leave it at that. And again, I want to thank my new subscribers. You people that are watching this that have never watched me before. Come on now, subscribe to my channel here, and be part of this thing. As we analyze and discuss, not only the problems with the police here in Worcester, but nationwide. Because we have a problem with the police all over America, taking advantage of African American men. And some of them, don't get off so lucky where all they end up with is two torn tendons in their shoulders. We've got African American men that are being shot and killed by the police all over America for no reason besides the fact that they're black and these white police officers fear them. So I want to thank you again, and let you know that I love you and Jesus loves you, and you have a fantastic day, and God bless.